Okay, we are recording. Happy Wednesday, everyone. We are still covering the Go Giver. We are in the second segment of our chapters, which I loved this segment of the chapters. I was like, I loved the first segment, and then I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about the CEO. That's such a good lesson. Such a powerful lesson. So I loved especially his response when he walked in and he was like, what are all these people doing? And why are they coloring and playing with Play-Doh and pipe cleaners in a giant like kids room? What is going on right now? um I thought that was super fantastic. So I have like a million things that I highlighted or underlined for this chapter because this is such an amazing chapter. Um, so I wanted to start off, really the first thing I started accenting was the second law. When she starts talking about, she kind of recaps the first law with him. And she says to him, the first law determines how valuable you are, Nicole continued. In other words, your potential income, how much you could earn. But the second law that determines how much you actually do earn, right? That's a powerful distinction. So how valuable you are in your community determines how much you could earn, your potential. But the second law actually determines how much you will earn. That law being your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So impact, basically. The first law is value and the second law is impact or compensation, but I'm calling it impact because that's really what she's talking about. How many people can you serve and serve them well? And when I first read this book, I remember thinking, man, this Beachbody model is pretty brilliant for that purpose in particular, because you're running an online business where you have a limitless capacity to help as many people as you can at one time. And you really have no cap. There's no limit to how many people you can serve. Whereas if you're like in my day job, which is massage, I am capped at how many bodies I can work on in a day. That's like, I can't do more really than 5. 6 is pushing it in a day before I start to feel like I'm depleted. But with this kind of model for business, you're completely uncapped, which is so brilliant. It's such a brilliant way to do business. And then, Joe, and they're kind of like going back and forth. And he talks about how he always thought it was so unfair that, like athletes and CEOs and all these people earned all these like huge salaries, while the people that he thought were actually like doing real work, like teachers and nurses or whatever, like weren't getting paid. And then he says, but what you're saying is it's not just a question of their value, but it's a question of their impact, which he says correct. And there are two amazing things about this. First, it means that you get to determine your level of compensation. It's under your control. If you want more success, find a way to serve more people. It's that simple. And it also means that there are no limitations on what you can earn because you can always find more people to serve. Like, so good, so good. It also helped me connect how I was viewing my true worth as well as how to connect it all in service and how to serve. Right, like you've got to cross that bridge. It's not just about like, this is my value, but this is also now how I convert that into impact, right? Because you can see yourself as very valuable and still not be making an impact and not be earning the income. And honestly, I think this is where a lot of coaches get stuck. Like, once you've been in this business for a while and you haven't seen momentum, you're like, okay, I know the things, I know I'm valuable, I know I have resources, but then converting that to actually making the impact is where like the train stops, right? Where like, this is how much value I have and how much I could be earning, but it's not translating, right? So I feel like this segment was really important for you guys to understand what actually makes you money. What actually makes you money is the impact, not how valuable you are. You're all extremely valuable, very knowledgeable, very connected human beings. But the impact component is what's actually going to make you income. I thought that was a really powerful connecting. All right, Erwin. This whole like chapter is worth saying out loud, I feel like. Do you feel like everything was like highlightable? Also really love the end where she described how they sit and make up their stories like art. Yes, that's so good. So the segment, so I'm just gonna read that passage because that's like all connected. She continues to say, the Reverend Martin Luther King once said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve, which I freaking love that quote. And I plan on writing an entire post about that quote because I think it's so powerful. It's another way of saying that everybody can be successful because anybody can give. So good. And then she talks about how she almost sabotaged this entire project when it came to a certain point, and he was like, why, did you think you were going to mess it up? And she was like, no, I thought it was going to be really successful, but I grew up with a belief that you either do good or you're rich. You can't do both things. And how many of us have believed that, have grown up with that somewhere ingrained in us, that models of rich are people who are superficial and they don't do anything good for society and they're corrupt and they're greedy, and so we have this story that's kind of like ingrained in our system. And then Joe asked her what happened, and she said, well, I watched how hard my parents were working and I saw how many kids' lives we were changing, and I saw that my old belief system was only getting in the way. It wasn't serving, so I decided to change it. You just decided? Yep, decided. So you can just do that? Anyone can. She smiled, noting Joe's doubting look. Haven't you ever made up a story? Joe glanced around the playroom, conference room, and he flashed back to kindergarten and laughed. I sure used to, plenty of them. Your life works the same way, she said. You just make it up. Being broke and being rich are both decisions. You make them up right here. Everything else is just how it plays out. Can I just state that this is law of attraction in a book about business? Someone literally wrote about alignment and law of attraction in a business book. How you change that is everything I teach, which is thought models. Okay, this is really what I focus on in my Alignment University, because this is the work that has changed my life when I've been working with my coach. The thought model, you just change it. And Brooke says this all the time. You know, people will be doing a model. She'll first do one model and she'll show you what you're thinking. And then she'll be like, okay, let's do a conscious model, and she'll show you what you want to think. And then she's like, there you go, just change your thought. And they're like, you mean that's it? And she's like, yeah, just stop thinking this one and start thinking this one, and you'll have a different result. And they're like, what? Like, you can tell the students are just staring at her like, she's crazy. Like, it's not that easy. And then Nicole says the exact same thing in this book, and I'm like, it is that easy. It literally is that easy. The reason it doesn't feel that easy is because we have all this momentum behind the thought that we don't want to have anymore. We have a lot of belief around the thought that we can't do something, and something is hard, and something is, and so it feels real because there's a lot of momentum behind it. Kind of like you feel real because all of these atoms are very tightly wound, creating an illusion of solidity. But in reality, we're all just like wavelengths for wave particles. We're not solid, but we look solid and we feel solid because the particles are so condensed. Okay, your reality works the same way. It feels real because it's condensed, because you have a lot of momentum behind it. But you can, at any moment, make it different and decide to think something different. And as a result, have a completely different experience of reality. That help? I feel like that's really good imagery of how this works. Let's reflect on this a little bit, because I feel like this is a big deal. I don't want to just skip over that segment. Let's talk about it. Sable, I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, I highlighted that whole section because It's just that simple. Like, and I feel like he doesn't even get how simple it is because he's just like, what, what just happened? And I feel like I'm the same way. Like the last line, like you just make it up. Like even when I was reading it, I was like kind of like laughing out loud because I was like, oh my god, you just do it differently. Like it's all up to you. Like it's all your own story. It's all made up. It's all like in your head.
You know, really good example of this. Have you guys seen Queen? I think Kari saw Queen. Did you see Queen, Save?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. We have so many things to watch when I'm up there. We're going to binge watch everything. Get ready for that. Aliens and Queen. It's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
So before Freddie Mercury was Freddie Mercury, I love telling this story. You see it in the movie so clearly. It's right when they're about to have their first big meeting with a record label. So the band has sort of been playing local shows and, you know, they've been getting some attention. And finally someone says, hey, I want you to have a meeting with this recording person. And it's right at the beginning of their career. They're all at this meeting and Freddie Mercury's late. He was always late. He was always the last one to arrive. And he shows up wearing this jacket that I want so badly. It's like a white leather studded jacket, but it has a neckline that's like spiky. It's like, you know, those lizards that have that like bill? That's what it looks like. Like the whole jacket just looks like a giant lizard. And his bandmates actually said that to him. They're like, you look like an angry lizard when he shows up to the meeting. He has this giant jacket, these crazy looking sunglasses. He just looks like next level, right? And they're like, what are you wearing? Meanwhile, the rest of his band just looks normal. They're like in jeans and like a shirt with like a regular jacket. And he's just like way over the top. And he's like, well, I'm Freddie Mercury. Like, they've got to know. You know, like he had this image of himself that was so big. I mean, he was a big deal to himself. Nobody else knew who the fuck this guy was, but he was a big deal to himself. And he carried himself with that level of, I'm a big fucking deal. Everybody needs to know that about me. And even when they were talking about the deal, he was like, is that all you're going to do for us? Like, he was literally grilling the person giving them a record deal. Like, he had some kind of power. Like, is that it? Like, there's not more to your deal. Like, he had this sense of personal empowerment. That's what made them famous. That's what made them he made them famous, not because they weren't amazing musicians, but because he had such an audacity about who he was, and he made it up in his head. He just decided that being an immigrant wasn't going to be a problem, that being queer wasn't going to be a problem, that being, he just decided, and guess what? He was huge. And so if you ever are like, how do you just decide? Please just go watch Queen. Like, just go watch that movie, because you're going to walk out of that movie being like, I can say whatever I want about myself and nobody can say anything. And they can't. That's the best part. They cannot. They've got to go along with it. Because Andrea Crowder said this in a meeting once. She said, whoever has the most belief wins. Whoever has the most belief wins. In any conversation, whoever believes the most is always the person that wins. That's true in sales. That's true in trying to sell yourself. That's true in your come up. That's true in any project you create. The more belief you have, the more you're likely to win. So that's what we have to work on. That's exactly what Nicole said in that segment to Joe. She's like, I decided that I could do this and I was going to rock the shit out of it. And then she did. Like, that's it. That's it. That's all it is. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that exciting that that's all it is? It's not some big secret, but it's really that fucking simple. That's exciting to me. That's like a big deal. I don't know about you guys, but knowing that, yeah, it's huge. And you know who else talks about this is Joe Dispenza. He talks about it a lot in like healing the body. Like, he's just like, I just decided. He was paralyzed, laying on his bed. He couldn't move his entire body. He got hit by a Ford Bronco on a bike. And he was a doctor, chiropractic doctor. got paralyzed, and he's like, well, the only thing I could do was lay down, so I just meditated until I fixed my entire spine. In 12 weeks, he was up again and moving around. Complete medical miracle. He did that with his brain. Do you guys understand the power of what's in here? Do you guys understand that this is literally everything? Everything. Those stories aren't even rare. People are curing themselves of all kind of weird shit. HIV, cancer, bizarre things that there's no cure for and nobody can explain. People are creating multi-million-dollar businesses from nothing, from really shitty backgrounds, with nothing to give them anything except this. Amanda Francis talks about this all the time. She's like, I just decided I was going to be rich. She's like, I just decided I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to be known for being rich. And then she launched her first workshop, and it was a fail. Like 2 people bought it or something. Remember she told you a story, like she sold a course, and she's like, 2 people showed up, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking sell the shit out of this course and pretend like 100 people showed up. And then the next time she launched it, 10 people bought it. Then the next time she launched it, 100 people bought it. And then now she's a multimillionaire, and she's self-made, and she's like, I just kept showing up like I was the shit, and people just kept buying from me. 3 people showed, 2 bought, then explode. Yeah, I mean, and that is it, you guys. There's no secret except the story you tell yourself and how often you keep showing up. If you are tenacious enough and you work on this, it's like done deal, done. So right now, where you guys are, I want to have a little chat about this, because this is really what the whole segment was about. I want to talk about, where in your thought pattern at this moment have you isolated the story you're telling that's not working for you? And what story are you going to start telling yourself right now in 2019? Say it out loud or type it in the chat box. I want to know what story you're going to tell yourself now. What have you been telling yourself, and what are you going to tell yourself now? Change that. Tanya and Kari, you guys can type. Can't run my own business. Can absolutely do it. So then answer the question, Kari. I'm going to be your ego. You ready? Your ego is going to say, no, you can't. You've never done it before. How are you going to do that, Kari? That's what your ego is going to say to that thought. So pick another thought that's less combative. Because you don't want to pick a thought that your ego is going to have a rightful place to say anything about. You know what I mean? Because you can say, I can absolutely do it, but your ego is going to be like, no, you can't. You've never done it before. And they have a point. You've never done it before, right? So you need to pick a thought that your ego can't come at you with something like that, but that feels more empowering, that I can't run my own business. So pick a new thought. This is how I work with myself, by the way. This is literally what I do with my own brain every day. I'm like, okay, I'm having this shit thought. I need a new thought. What thought can I think that my ego can't bat at me? Okay, here we go. You don't deserve to be happy or healthy. I can absolutely be and deserve these things because I'm good enough. Okay, Tanya, I'm going to do the same thing I did with Kari. Your ego's going to come in and be like, how do you know that you're good enough? Like, really, can you be? Because your life hasn't proven that to you. Right? Do you see how the ego works? I can post consistently. Yeah, you can. I can share my story consistently. That's another thought that you can believe. I can share my story consistently. I know how to support people. I can share my story safely. That's right. I know how to support people, because you do. You know how to hold space for people. I can show up for myself consistently. Yes. Do you see how those thoughts cannot be battled by your ego? Do you see how those thoughts are completely believable, they're empowering, and they're completely in your control? That's the difference. And this is what, again, this is a lot of what I teach in the university. You've got to know how to speak to yourself so that you believe it. Because if you don't believe what you're saying, all the affirmations in the world are deafening. They're not going to work for you. Yes. Yes. They need, right. They need to dominate your thoughts, but they need to be believable by you right now. If you cannot believe the new thought, it doesn't work. You might as well not think a new thought. Okay? And this is the problem with affirmations. A lot of people are like, I am healthy, strong, and beautiful. Meanwhile, your ego's like, no, you fucking aren't. Because that's what your ego does. You know, your ego comes back with, nope. Right? So it has to be something that your ego cannot say that to you. Right? So when you say something like, I can post consistently, I can share my story safely, your ego doesn't really have anything to say. You know, it's like, okay, well, you can. Like, that's what your ego's gonna say. You can, because you've done that, so fine. Right? Like, there's no fight there. Or like, I can show up myself consistently. It's like, well, yeah, you can do that actually. You probably have been doing that, so I can't really say anything to you about that. Right? So think about that. Think about that when you're thinking of new thoughts. What can I believe right now? What can I get behind right now? And here's what happens. So you'll get behind these thoughts, right? I can post consistently, I can share safely, I can show up for myself consistently. Then those will become dominant and they will become normal and neutralized. And then you can jump to a different thought and you can think, I am a powerful creator, and you'll start to believe that because you've shown yourself this other thing, right? So you've got to bridge your thoughts. You've got to bridge them. You can't just go here, here, you know? You've got to bridge. It is the tough part. Believing is the work. So that's why you have to start with a thought that you can believe right now, even if it's a very small thought, like I can show up for myself consistently. That's good enough. That's an empowering thought. Start there. When you can believe that fully, then choose a new thought that feels a little bit more in this direction and a little bit more in that direction. Does this make sense now, how to use affirmations effectively? This is how they actually work. The missing link in the affirmation conversation is that you're jumping too fast. You're trying to make a quantum leap and you're not ready for that. Your brain is not going to believe that. You need to get your ego on your side. You don't need to fight your ego. You need to get it on your side to support you. This is how you do that. Good. Making sense. Good, good, good. So for me, I'll share mine. My belief has been, I'm not a good leader. I'm not a good enough leader. That's been my belief, right? I'm not a good enough leader. So I've been choosing to think things like, I really love my team, because I do. And that's a very empowering thought for me. And that feels really good when I say that. Things like, I really love showing up for my team. It's really fulfilling for me to mentor my team. When I think those thoughts, I feel really connected to my heart. And that makes me feel really good about being a leader. And that kind of cures that I'm not good enough thing. And it also doesn't give my ego anything to fight with me, because I do love my team. Your ego's like, well, yeah, you do, right? like you can't say anything to that. It's like, yeah, that's true. So that's how I'm working on my own story. So my story this year is that I'm a powerful, connected, and effective leader for my team. And that's where I'm moving towards believing, that I am a powerful, connected, and effective leader. I don't believe that yet. I think I'm powerful. I don't feel super connected or effective yet. But I'm working on building that with these bridge thoughts for myself. Good. Makes sense. Perfect. Super good. Sable, do you have anything you want to share about your own thoughts or any aha moments? I feel like light bulbs are going off for you. I can see them over your head.
Yeah, I love this section for sure, like in everything that you're saying. So one of my stories is that people don't want to work with me because I have nothing special to offer.
Okay.
So I constantly tell myself, like, instead of like jumping to like, oh, I have all these people, is I offer value. I consistently show up. You know, I've been working through those, and I've seen a difference. There's a quote on page 51, and this is when in the book when Joe comes back to the office and he serves coffee to everyone on the 7th floor.
that.
Because he's like, oh my gosh, now I have to do something with what I've learned. And so he just starts making coffee. Like he literally just walks around like a crazy person handing out coffee. And he gets back to his office, and Gus, who had originally connected him, to this process, says, sometimes you feel foolish, even look foolish, but you do the thing anyway. And that right there is what I have been telling myself, like, just because I don't see it happening right away, like I don't see the result right away, and I feel crazy sometimes, I just do it anyway. I just post it anyway. I just talk to people anyway. And that has kind of been my, like, 2019 so far, is like, just because it feels weird, like, you just keep doing it.
I just had that conversation with Susie today. So Susie and I had a call for planning her 2019, and she was like, I don't want to post things and then have people think that I'm judging them for their lifestyle. And I'm like, okay, so you are afraid of being judged for being judgmental. And she's like, yes. And I was like, I understand that fear. And what happens the times, because she's been posting a lot more and sharing a lot more. So I'm like, what happens the times where you have shared those posts? Has anybody come out and told you you're an asshole? Stop judging me when you've shared your post? And she was like, no. In fact, I get a lot of text messages about people being like, I need help. And I'm like, okay, so let's put these pieces together. Like, I understand that it feels weird and that you're afraid of being judged. Everybody is afraid of being judged. That's a normal human experience. And that's very like limbic system. Understand that prehistorically speaking, you didn't want to be outed from your tribe because that meant you were going to die. You didn't want to be different. You didn't want to make a wave because if you were different in your tribe, you could get ostracized, and that meant you were going to die because you were outside of your tribe. So we are programmed to not want to be different because we don't want to stand out. We don't want to die. It's a fear of death, right? Like that's really what it comes down to, but we don't have to think that way anymore. And when you choose to let that win, you're just going into a default, a limbic system default that's old as fuck. And it's not applicable anymore. In this era, being different is actually what gets you ahead. It's the opposite now. So we have to do the work to program ourselves to like really keep doing it and keep doing it. The only reason I've had any success in this business is because for the past 3 years, I have not let up. Come rain, shine, the plague, a child, like death. I have lived through death. I have lived through so many things that have really threatened to derail me. And I have not stopped. And because I have not stopped, people now believe that I'm superhuman, which I'm not. I'm just really fucking consistent. And they reach out to me all the time. Every day I have people reach out to me that need help. Only because I haven't stopped. That's the only thing I've done. I'm not like magical unicorn. I just didn't stop. That's it. That's all I did. Right? I just looked dumb and I did it anyways. And I know my friends from high school have judged me. And I know they've been like, oh my God, she's a network marketer. And they went to become doctors and lawyers. And, they did all these really important things. And I became a network marketer. And I know there was judgment there. And I did it anyway. And to wrap this story up real quick, the other day I reached out to someone that I went to school with, I went to college with, because she's a lawyer. And I needed a small business lawyer. This is how the world works, you guys. Really pay attention to this. I needed some business advice on my university that I'm forming. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, Christina, I need help. I know that you're a lawyer and I need some support with a project. Do you have anybody you can recommend? And what she said next floored me and was exactly what all of this is about. She said to me, absolutely. By tomorrow, you will have a phone call and an email from one of the best small business lawyers that I know. And by the way, everything you post has changed my life. I read all of your posts every single day. Thank you so much for what you do. And if you need anything, regarding law in your small business, please let me know. That's a big deal. I just want you to absorb that. Someone I went to college with, who is a lawyer, said that to me, a network marketer, about my work. And as a result, is like, feels indebted to me and wants to support and help me with whatever I need. That's the level of impact that you can make on people's lives. I don't want you to underestimate that. And it's all because I just kept showing up. That's all I did. And she saw that. And that's the first time she ever said that to me. I didn't know that. I didn't know she was reading any of my posts. Right? That's a big deal. That's huge. Just need to throw that out there. Because that just happened to me. And I thought it was pretty fucking cool. And pretty special. You gotta be willing to look dumb. You do. You really do. Success is about willing to look so stupid and not give a fuck. To be really honest. Like, plain honest. To look like you give way too much away, to look like you don't sleep, to look like you've got to be willing to look insane. And that's the secret. Just do it. I loved that coffee scene. I thought that was so sweet that he did that. I was like, oh, Joe, you're so sweet. So good. That would have made my day, but I'm obsessed with coffee. But I'd have literally been like,
Me too. Yeah. That's why I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect. And then like the whole time I'm reading it, I like totally forgot that he had to meet quota. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, what are you gonna do, man?
I had the exact same thought. I was like, oh my God,
Like,
you still have to do that.
I completely forgot. Like that was the whole point. I was like, oh, you're gonna be in so much trouble.
I had that same oh shit moment with him as he remembered. I was like, oh yeah, that's so
Yeah, that's what happened to me. And I feel like that is like so me right now because like I'm really avoiding a big project at work. And so in the middle of me avoiding this big project, like I've done all kinds of random shenanigans in the office. I was like, let's have a taco party. They're like, aren't you busy? I was like, I'm slammed. Let's all order tacos right now. Like, let's hang out.
I'm slammed. Let's order.
And my team's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. That sounds way better. And then like later I'll be like, not in my office and I'll be somewhere else. They're like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm totally not doing that other thing because it's way better.
I am avoiding my job. Actually, that's what I'm doing actively.
But I feel like when I'm in the process of avoiding that thing, I tend to have better brainstorming or, you know, like I'm changing the world somewhere else because like I'm avoiding that corner.
Coughing so hard laughing right now. You love these meetings. These are the best. No other meetings are like these meetings, I'll have you know. Hilarious. Oh, I feel you. That mom bladder is like no bueno. I need to work on that myself.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's funny. But I mean, for real. Like, I hope you guys are getting so much out of this book, as much as I got out of the book the first time I read it, because this book for me really changed the way I saw myself in this business. It took me away from seeing myself as a Beachbody coach who was just like trying to sell challenge packs, and it showed me that I was a valuable asset to myself if I could learn how to value myself that way. It really gave me the understanding that I could be of so much service in this world if I allowed myself to see it that way. And this book and the other one was from Selling to Serving, which I've talked about before, by Lou Casara. Such a good book. In fact, we're adding that to the list for book club for this team, because that book, the other cool thing about From Selling to Serving is that there's activities after each chapter. So there's actually something that you can do, which is cool because it engages you more than just like reading something. Yeah, see, it's changing you also. And that's the power of these kinds of books is that I want to put you in the seat of empowerment in your business. I want you to see that you are a leader, that you are empowered, that you are sovereign, and that you are valuable to your community. Because in my opinion, that's where we get stuck when we start a business. We don't take ownership of it. We don't really see ourselves as being the owners of our business. We're just like, I got to sell this product. I got to meet this benchmark. I got to hit Success Club, but what does that even mean? Like, how do you get there? You get there by consistently being an empowered sovereign leader in your own business. That's how those things happen, right? Because when you start to see yourself that way and you act that way, that's the result that you get. It's natural. People ask me all the time, how do you do everything that you do? Because I do. I have a lot of projects. I have a lot of irons in the fire that I'm twirling all the time. And I'm like, I just decide that I'm the kind of person who can do that. That's literally how I do that. I decide I am the kind of person that can run a successful Beachbody business, that can also run an entire coaching university, that can also do readings, that can also have a massage business, and can also be a mom. I am the kind of person who is expansive enough to do those things. Yes. And it was really tempting for me when I started launching new projects and also my podcast to say, you can't do all those things. There's no way you can do all those things. That's too many things, right? Because that's what other people say. And I was like, who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide that that's too many things? What kind of voice is that? This doesn't sound like me. That sounds like a boring person, not me. I am eternally stimulated by projects and ways to serve. It would be like me to have multiple projects. And I am completely the kind of person who can do that. And since I've been saying that to myself, guess what? Everything has gone fucking good. Like, more students are signing up for the university. Beachbody business is doing well. You guys are amazing. Like, it's all going because I've just decided I get to be that kind of person.
I feel like that's when you asked me, how do you get up so early in the morning? How are you a morning person? I was like, the alarm goes off and I get up. Like, then,
how do you do that? You just get out of your bed.
Yeah, you're like, I'm like, that's just when I get up. Like, I don't know. And it's like I forget that. Like, I forget that it's that simple, but it is.
When you were talking about going out and being yourself, I felt some resistance. I felt into it. And the emotion there is shame to be different, or me. You guys always help dig out all the things. Yeah, that's a normal thing to feel. Feeling shame about being yourself is actually extremely normal. And I want you to understand that that's a self-preservation technique. We feel that way because it hasn't been safe to be different for a very long time. And now it is. It's okay to be different. And we've just got to make that switch from like, limbic, I'm still in my ancestry brain, to like prefrontal cortex, I can make decisions about my life however I want, right? Activate up here more. Yeah, you want to be good at doing all the things too. So you just decide, I'm the kind of person who does all these projects. I'm the kind of person who has all these irons in the fire and does a fine fucking job of juggling them. I'm the kind of person who is stimulated by learning. Like right now, on top of doing all of that, I'm watching all these alien documentaries on TV, which has my brain feeling kind of crazy, and I'm reading all these books, and I'm having the time of my life. And in my past, I would have been like, I'm so overwhelmed. I have all these things to do. How am I going to do them all? Because I saw myself as being very small, and I kept telling myself, you can't do all these things. That's too many of the things, right? And now I'm telling myself, you can do all the things because you're fucking magic. You are literal walking magic. You can do anything you want. And I feel amazing when I say that to myself. And guess what happens? I handle everything, and then people are reinforcing that. They're messaging me saying, I think you're one of the most inspiring human beings I've ever met in my whole life. Random people I never talk to are saying that to me. They're reinforcing what I'm saying to myself, that I'm fucking magic, right? And so then now my community is feeling that and telling me that back. That's powerful. That's how it works. That's everything that's in here. Isn't that amazing? This book is magical. It's literally magical if you allow it to see the magic in it. And it's such an easy read. I read those 3 chapters in one sitting. I was like, done. So good. So what our next ones are 7, 8, and 9.
Next week is 7 through 10.
7 through 10. Oh, we're
So
going
there's
to
4 chapters, but they're still pretty small.
the law of influence. I'm really excited about that one. I forgot about that law. It's gonna be like the first time. The law of influence and the law of authenticity. That's what we're going into. Oh, don't want to miss these. These are gonna be really good. So good. Anyways, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share because
Kari, probably reading it tonight.
I
That's what happened to me. I was reading the chapters and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, that's it? I'm done?
yeah, it was fast. I want to draw attention to that line when she was like, once she realized how much momentum it was gathering, she like almost sabotaged it.
That's me.
Yes, because that's me as well. And I had to really work on this because I was doing it so often that I was like, girl, if you don't get this under control, you're never going to have a successful anything, because every time you get right to the brink, when someone, like in this business, they start asking you for information, they start reaching out to you, and then you fucking freeze like you're a deer in headlights, like, I don't know what the fuck to say to these people. This is a conversation I had with Susie today as well. There does come a moment where you start to feel good and excited, and then you've almost reached your capacity to be able to process that feeling. Like you're not used to feeling this good, so you hit a wall. And then you're like, tank, to get back to like what you're used to feeling. Okay. So I want you guys to become a master of feeling that resistance, of getting into that zone of tension. Like if you imagine that you're walking and suddenly you hit this clear wall that feels kind of sticky and thick, okay? That you can feel that. You can feel that. And it's a lot like when they tell you when you're delivering with contractions, or like when you feel the contraction come on, I just want you to relax your whole body. That's what they tell you when you're delivering. Just like relax the entire body. That's what I want you to do. I want you to come up to that wall and I want you to relax your entire body. And then just lean into the wall. Okay, just lean into that feeling. Be like, yes, I feel the resistance. Yes, I'm starting to feel that feeling of overwhelm. I'm starting to feel that feeling like I don't know what to say. I'm starting to feel, and if you have to say it out loud, say it. And just lean in, lean in, lean in, lean in, lean in, slow until you get to the other side. That's how it works. So when I start to feel that, I slow down. I physically slow down. I slow my breath, and then I slow down my steps so that I can walk through that tension slowly. It's a lot like when you're doing massage. Kari will relate to this. And you get to a really hard muscle. A lot of therapists are like, like this is the technique they like to use to like bring out knots, and doesn't work. It just feels like shit, and it leaves the person feeling sore. But if you get to a really tight muscle and you just kind of sink and wait, the muscle gives. It just gives. It allows you to go through. It's the same with resistance and self-sabotage. I want you to become a master of recognizing that wall and just being there and not having to run or push, or just being there. You will go through it on your own. But recognize when that starts to happen. And for Susie, for example, she said, well, someone will reach out to me and say, you know, they'll want to know about Beachbody, and then I don't know what to say. I freeze out. So then this is what I said to her. Have a script saved in Google Docs for what you're going to say to everybody. And the first thing I say to everybody, and I like to send it in a voice note because I like them to hear my voice, is, yeah, of course, I'm happy to help you. Now, let me ask you a few questions to just figure out what you're needing. And I ask these 4 questions. Number 1, you can write them down if you want. Number 1 is, what are you doing right now for your fitness and nutrition? Are you doing anything? And what has worked for you in your life and what has not worked for you? Do you have any physical limitations, anything that you cannot do right now? And what is a goal that you have with, like, why did you reach out to me, basically? What's really calling to you? If you can get them to answer those 4 questions, you'll know a hell of a lot about that person and exactly what to talk to them about with those 4 questions. So whenever someone reaches out to me, I always ask them those 4 questions first. I don't say shit. I ask them those 4 questions and I wait for the answer. This does a couple of things. It gives them time to think about why the hell they contacted you. And it also lets them give you all the information you need to sell them, basically, because you'll know exactly what they're struggling with. Okay. And it also gives you time to catch your breath while you're panicking that someone reached out to you for information. It gives you time to catch your breath because now they have to answer these questions for you to decide how you're going to reapproach the conversation. Does this make sense? This is the smartest thing I can give you for initiating conversation. And it works every time. Have to write a Google Doc on our team page about this. But it works. We've talked about so much on this team call. I feel like everybody needs to watch this team call. Legit. Like, nobody can miss this team call. It's one of those. All right. Any other questions or quotes that you want to share about this segment before we go on to our next one? This was such a good choose for a read. Nancy, one of our newer coaches, was like, this book is blowing my mind. I'm like, yes. Yes, that was the whole idea. Such a good book. Oh, I don't see any. So that's really it. So Sable and I are meeting. I'm headed to her on Sunday. So after that, we're going to have an outline for the first 6 months of the year as far as like what books we're going to be reading, what subject matters we're going to be teaching on. So you'll have a list of all the books to come like way ahead of time so that you can have time to find them and collect them to read them ahead of time. And also kind of, we're going to do a sum up of like probably that team call, because that's when we'll be up there. We'll talk about the chapters in the book and then kind of sum up where we're going in the year. Important things like, by the way, check your online office for launches, because like February, the new pre-workout launches, the Fruit Punch Energize launches. This year, we're getting a whole vegan performance line, which is very exciting. A lot of people are pumped about that. And just keep track of the things that are happening and coming, because they're constantly updating that news thing on your online office for you to know. And that way, you know, kind of like what to talk to people about, and what someone comes to you with a specific need, you'll know if there's something coming that can meet that, etc. Cool. All right, guys. So I'm going to call it a night then. Thanks so much for hanging. And yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday where Sable and I will actually be together for a team call. Yay. All right, guys. Have a good night. Love you.
Bye.